Nice. Uh, I'm Mike Stevenson. I'm with Brink and Sadler CPAs. I have a master's degree in business, an MBA from, where's that, Puget Sound? That's right, university. Also a master's in science for tax from Golden Gate University and a few other smaller ones here and there. I am certified CPA, CMA, CGMA, and I think that's it for now, hopefully. Two are actually certified management accountant and global management accountant, which is just an international term or certification used to show that you are certified in management accounting, basically, which is what most corporations use. And hopefully everybody knows that CPA is certified public accountant. They're the ones that are used to be the watchdogs of the business world, the best friends to the banks, because it gives them a deep pocket to go after, because they have to be insured. So, and for years, people have overestimated what reliability they should put on CPA statements. They think every statement that comes out should be an audit. Enough digressing. Today we're going to talk about accountable and unaccountable plans for personal use of automobiles provided by employers, and we'll also cover the different methods you can use if you work for an employer and you provide your own vehicle, or if you're self-employed and want to take mileage deductions. The first one that everybody should know and everybody tries to avoid is the taxpayer must have substantiate by adequate records or significant or written evidence the following types of expenses: traveling expenses including meals and lodging while away from home, entertainment, and business. And basically what they really want is some kind of proof of where you went, when you went, what the purpose of it was, and how many miles it was to and from. Now, there's basically three methods of determining mileage easily. First one is the mileage method, which sounds what? The mileage method. And what that requires, this is what my firm uses, is that every time you go somewhere, like today I came to here, I take my mileage and I put it right down on reported on my timesheet that I went to Tacoma Business Connection at the Urban Elk, and it was, today I think it was 40 miles.
Just wondering.
You went the wrong way?
Yeah, something like that. I went to exit 19 on I-5, excuse me, 19th Street exit on I-5, which I don't believe exists. But the map I had showed it. That could be why, but it didn't show that. Anyway, so you need all three of those, and you do it every day, so it's contemporaneous. And then what happens is your employer just pays you this year 54 cents a mile for however many miles you do it. And they do that every month. So they basically look at everyone's mileage for that month, and then they write a check for whatever the mileage is. And they get to deduct it, and you get reimbursed, and that's the end of it. There's nothing else you have to do.
Now that mileage, does it start though not from when you get to work?
It's only when you're going from work to somewhere else. Now, the first trip, everybody's first trip to work, no matter where it is, like for some people, it could be somebody's house, all right? Wherever your first trip is, that's your commute. Everything after that can be considered business mileage as long as it's related to work. So that's the way you keep track of your miles, but they want you to keep track of it all the time. Now, if you do the same thing over and over, say Kevin's people, say he made a paint shed 20 miles away from his office, but he required everybody to come to the office, the headquarters, every day to get their work orders, and at the end of the day to come back there. Their trip to the office would not be, well, that would be commuting because they'd pick up their paperwork. Then from then on, all their travel to the other place and back would be considered business miles, and they'd get paid for that. There's really, and that's basically an accountable plan because someone, an employer, is looking at the mileage that you turn in, and there's approving whatever it is by paying you the amount for it, the mileage. Now they can also have different plans. They can have, they pay you a flat fee. I'll pay you, I know that you're a salesperson and that you're going to be out most of the time, so I'll pay you $400 a month to use your own car as an employee business, but you have to travel 10,000 miles a year. And as long as you make it within 80% of that every year, you get to keep the money and I get to take the deduction. Okay. Now, none of those, this rule doesn't apply to owners. Anytime you're a 1% owner or more of a business, most of these plans you're kicked out of. Basically because they're afraid that you're going to manipulate it. But the bigger companies like KeyBank, they can do that. You know, and big corporations do, they usually have elaborate plans that you go ahead and record all your stuff, and then every month they have somebody review it. Yes?
This is a good subject. What we use at ADT is called Run Miles. So basically it tracks all your miles where you go from stop to stop, and it's automatically keeps it up for you every month. And then we have to turn it in.
Right.
Every month, but it's just a pain if you have to turn it right now. It's a lot easier.
But what makes it an accountable plan is somebody has to look at it. They don't have to look at it very hard, but they have to look at it, and then they can, once they approve it, then whatever your benefit is, you get. It's pretty easy. What happens in most cases, and what we use the most, is when we use the lease value of the vehicle. So if we provide somebody with a vehicle, or if we have a company that has a vehicle, we have to worry about what the personal use of that vehicle is. So we ask that the people using that vehicle turn in their mileage for the year, and they turn in community miles, they turn in business miles, and personal miles. So if you drove 20,000 miles that year, you had 4,000 miles of driving back and forth to work, and maybe 2,000 miles of doing personal stuff. And then you had 16,000 miles of business. So you take that information, you take the 6,000, first of all, we determine what kind of a car you have, what year it is, and we look up on a chart to determine what the lease value of that car is. And then we determine your business use. So in this case, that was what, 70%. So that means your non-business use is 30%. That's your commuting and your personal. So we take 30% of, let's say, $2,000 is what the lease value would be. So that's $600. And then we take your personal miles, which was 6,000, times 5.5% if you provided your own gas. So then we can go ahead and add that to it. So I haven't calculated this, so it's probably around another 30-some dollars. Is that right? It's 300, so it's gotta be 30. So $630. And what we do with that is that's what you owe the company for using their car, for your personal use during whatever period of time, for the year, basically. So what we do with that is we have them add it to your W-2. So if they add that to your W-2, you do end up paying FICA and withholding, and it's taxable, unless you're already over the limits, and then you're okay. And you do it at the last quarter of the year, so a lot of times some higher-end people, that does work for them. And then what happens is the company gets to take 100% depreciation on that vehicle instead of 70. They get to take all the expenses they paid for that vehicle for the whole year, and that's all deducted. All they do on their books is report the $6,000, or what do we decide, $630. They move it from automobile expense to wage expense. So there really wasn't any change. All they're doing is moving it around, so they still get the same deduction. And then you get the use of this car for the whole year to do your stuff. And the only thing it costs you is whatever your tax rate is times the $630 that they gave you. Okay.
Now,
That, to us, seems to be the best for most corporations.
if you don't do your own gas, then is it higher than 5.5% after that?
No. It would be lower. Well, no, it'd be the same, because the lease rate is without gas. That's for everything but gas.
Okay.
And I have those sheets here that I can pass out later, and then you can see how the calculation goes for that. Self-employed people, you're kind of stuck. In that case, you still do the same things as far as determining what the value of the vehicle is and what the reimbursement's going to be. But on your depreciation schedule, you only get to take 70% of whatever the depreciation expense would have been on your tax return. And most programs will do that automatically. They will, you put in the information and tell it 30% is personal, and it will automatically reduce your depreciation by that amount. And it's usually the only thing that shows up on the return.
Now, our miles that do count from my home office to a client's every single time, right? I mean, that's my starting point.
If your office is at home, then you can justify every trip in the business trip going out from there. You can also, one of the things the company has to have on most of these plans is you have to have a policy that says that employees are not allowed to use the car for personal use. Let me back up. For an accountable plan where you're getting 100% reimbursed, so the company's getting 100% reimbursed, it has to say that. There is one really beneficial plan, this is a totally different one now, that says if you have a special purpose vehicle, or there is not a secure place at the business, in other words, the client gives you a car to use, but he doesn't want it left out on the street on Center Street, and he doesn't have a fenced-in lot. So he decides, okay, I want you to take this car home and secure it every time. Or you have a truck that's full of Comcast equipment and specifically designed for an installer who's on call basically to go out to a job at any time. Their rate is basically a commute rate, which is $1.50 each way. So $3 a day is what they end up having to pay the company back for the use of the vehicle. But there has to be a policy that they are not supposed to use it for personal use other than de minimis, meaning if they're driving out on a job and it's lunchtime, they stop and get food, that's fine. Actually, this could work for you if you weren't the owner. Does not work for the owner, but if you have somebody else that's there that's driving your truck around, which isn't, You know, it's specifically designed for doing what you're doing. And you wouldn't go around taking people out on a date on it. Because I've seen it, I know. That type of thing, then yes, you know, then that person can get away with that rate. There are, the middle one was basically, company gives you a car, they give you a flat fee, and then you tell them how many miles you had, and then they can also give you a mileage rate. Now, those all work as long as they stay within 80% at the time of what the projected mileage is supposed to be. And that's on the accountable. It's going to be unaccountable, that's what I meant. On the non-accountable plans, the employer can say, here's a car, I'm not gonna give you a car, use your own car, I'll give you $500 a month, here. And we're just gonna add it to your wages, and you go ahead and use the car, any mileage, any business mileage you want, you take on your own return personally. So as far as the company is concerned, they're just paying you $500 more in wages. To go out and buy a car, use your personal car to do whatever they're doing. If you have business expenses, then you have to take it on your own personal return. And so that takes all the burden off the corporation, basically. They know exactly what their expense is, so they can budget it out for the year. And then any deduction you want, you have to do the paperwork. So you're gonna have to go ahead and do your records. Now, it doesn't have to be contemporaneous. It doesn't have to be immediate every time you do something. That's the best evidence you can have. But if you do it, say once a week, and you make sure that you put all your trips in there and you log it all down, that's good. If you wait until the end of the year to do it, that's not good. If you have a reoccurring job, so you know that you go to Seattle 30 times a year, then you can just say mileage to Seattle, whatever it is, times 30, and then if you have a couple other places you do, you can do that. I mean, theoretically, if you had to reconstruct all of yours, if you knew you had permanent or recurring clients, you knew what the mileage was for each one, and you knew how many times you went out there just for your billing, you could probably come up with a reasonable amount of mileage that way for your business purposes. And deal with that. Those are all things you may or may not have to fight with the IRS, but you can usually win as long as you have some type of evidence that's reasonable. If you just say, well, I drove 12,000 miles last year, so it's 12,000 miles this year. That will not work. Even if last year was documented. You have to have something to show them that is actually the correct amount for what you want. Some of the things they like to see is the account books, diaries, logs, documentary evidence, receipts, paid bills, trip sheets, expense reports, written statements of witnesses. Usually you don't get to that last one unless you are in an argument with the IRS. Okay, in the event that you fail to maintain adequate records, you must establish the described elements of the expenditure or use by written or oral statement and by corroborated evidence significantly establish the elements. In other words, you have to come up with some plan that shows some reasonable way that we came up with. I want to make sure that I covered the methods. The first one was reimbursement mileage allowance. That one's pretty easy. It's 54 cents right now, times your mileage, if you're interested, it's right now, you do medical for your own personal 2%. Excuse me, your medical expense, it's 19 cents. For contributions, it's 14 cents. So it's pretty low for anything other than business miles. Reimbursement method 2 is fixed and variable. And that's a company car uses an alternative reimbursement method called fixed and variable. This method allows companies to separately reimburse employees for the fixed and variable costs of driving the car in connection with the employer's business. The idea is to wind up with the reimbursement that approximates an employer's actual cost, or the employee's actual cost. And there's all kinds of reasons. I almost never see that one. Usually if you're a salesperson, they give you a fixed amount. They either give you a car, or they say, I'm going to give you $600 a month to go buy a car, or to lease a car. And then you take care of all the expenses yourself. And then they include it in the wages. Self-employed, again, you buy your own car. Should always be in the business name. A lot of people go out and buy their car in their personal name and then put it in the business and never transfer the title. But technically, it should be transferred to the business for it to be a business asset in order to do the deductions.
Especially for sole proprietor code?
Yeah. The one problem that you should know about is that you can never go below 50% depreciated or 50% business use. Anytime you go below that, you're subject to recap through depreciation at a lower rate. If you're over 50%, you can use accelerated method, you can use all kinds of deductions. If you're all below 50, all of a sudden you have to go to straight line, and you have to recapture all previous expenses that were over that straight line, which can be pretty crushing, very high expenses. So you should always maintain that you use that car, even if you have to stop using it for business, that you use it at least 50% or more. And I've never had one that was less than 50%. After some soul searching by my clients, I'm sure.
We got like 5 minutes left, Mike, till we gotta close the meeting.
I had 2 minutes a minute ago.
No, we have 5 minutes till the meeting's over.
Okay, all I wanted to do was to pass out the worksheets, just so you can see it. If you have a question on those, just pass those.
I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
In reference to the, does your vehicle need to be a certain year when you come out for an employer using your personal car?
No, can be any year they want. I mean, as far as, the employer providing the cars, that you say?
No, your personal car.
Oh, it can be any year.
Every year.
Yeah, whatever you want. Of course, the guys that have newer cars have higher expenses. And this is several different ones. This is actually not ours, but it's very close to what we use.
So I use my personal car, so it needs to be in the business name rather than mine.
It should be, yes. If
So
you
how would I
put it on your Schedule C in your business.
Yeah. But I can't put it Mary Kay because Mary Kay isn't really mine.
But that's not your business, is whatever you say. In your case, it's probably Susan Perry, Mary Kay Rep or whatever.
Yeah.
So you're probably okay with that, it's close enough that you would be okay. I can tell you that 90% of self-employed people don't change the name. Unless they have if you have an LLC or a corp, then you really should. Same with loans, when you buy cars, they should be in the name of the business, not in your personal name. For all kinds of reasons. And usually the bankers try to make sure that you do that, whenever they can. Any other questions?
What about a pastor? Does he need an Can you leave it in his name or does it?
Yeah, the parent would probably do it. But it depends on, you can always leave it in your own name if you're just taking miles.
Yeah, that's all we take.
Okay, if you're taking depreciation and stuff, like inside a business, then it's different.
Okay. No, we just take miles, we don't do
Okay,
it.
then you're good. What-